Good day, everyone, wherever and whatever time you are listening to us. First of all, thank you for joining us for our first trial class of SBM Strategic Business Management for exams in 2025. As we know that we have two exams timed. First is in July and second one is in November. So we are going for the exam session that is for November 2025. What we are going to do in this session, first of all, we are going to have a look on your SBM syllabus for November 2025 exam. What are different components of your SBM syllabus basically? How you should cover different components. Then we will be talking about your workbook and then your question bank, how you should start preparation of your SBM exam, then corporate reporting, and then for case study. As we have three exams of advanced level, corporate reporting, SBM, and case study, as all of these exams are different, so we will be having different sessions for all of three exams basically. So let's start without any delay. This is basically a document that has been downloaded from ICAEW website. Here we have contents for advanced level. As I mentioned, we are going to talk about strategic business management, SBM basically. Here we have overview, different components, work experience, and so on, CPL. But let's straight away move to the components of SBM. This is basically a starter page for SBM. These are syllabus contents. These have been discussed already in our orientation that was held in first week of August. But let's just have an overview. If you need detailed explanation about syllabus structure, exam questions, pattern, and what you need to do, then I would request you to please have a look on my orientation. As we know that there are 5 components of our SBM exam. First one belongs with your business analysis portion. So it talks about the business strategy and management, and the percentage is around 30 to 40%. So a major chunk of your syllabus belongs with your business strategy area, business strategy and management. So considering its percentage, you should spend significant amount of time on its preparation because you can expect different parts, different sections from this portion of business. Second portion, that is another major portion basically. It involves your financial side. It involves your financial strategy, financial structure, financial restructuring, financial instruments, and financial markets basically. And the percentage that is around 25 to 35% basically. So what we can say around 60% to 70% of your syllabus belongs with these two areas. First of all, business, and then second, that is basically about finance. Moving forward, third, we have corporate reporting basically, and its percentage is around 15 to 20%. So if I talk about corporate reporting, then there are two things that you should remember because there will be two types of students. In first type of students, let's assume that those students have passed their corporate reporting exam, or either they have studied corporate reporting or they are studying SBM along with corporate reporting. So that kind is fine basically. It means you already have knowledge about your reporting side that includes IAS, IFRS, and so on. If I talk about second type of students, and let's say SBM is going to be your very first exam in ICAEW advanced level, then what you need to do? You should not be worried. Why? Because we have planned our session in this way. Either SBM is your first exam in advanced level or it's a second exam, we will be providing you detailed sessions about all of your components, which includes all of your syllabus areas. So you should not be worried about. We will be going for live online sessions, recorded session, interactive session, tutor feedback, past papers, question bank, and mock exams. And then revision sessions, and then again mock exams as well. Fourth syllabus area, that is basically the assurance. This assurance area also belongs with your corporate reporting. So my comments would be same as I stated for corporate reporting. If you have studied, then it is good. If you have not studied, then you should not be worried because our sessions include all of your areas, which includes corporate reporting and assurance as well. And the percentage is around 10%. Last area, fifth section, that is basically about the ethics, and ethics involve around 5 to 10%. Around 5 to 10% of your syllabus belongs with your ethics. Ethics is a integral component of all of your exams of ICAEW because ICAEW believes that ethics play a very, very important role both in personal as well as in our professional life. That's why we see ethics in all of the exams of ICAEW. So these were the syllabus areas of SBM, 5 areas, starting with the business portion, then finance. Third one is for corporate reporting. Fourth is assurance. And fifth one is basically about ethics. One thing that I would like to clarify here, because as we know, business and finance are major portions. So sometimes students think they can ignore the other areas. Please never ever do that. Why? Because it creates a very bad impression for the examiner. It means you do not know about the reporting or assurance or ethics. So you might not be a good person. You might not be a good chartered accountant. So please be careful. Never ever leave any area unattempted. These are again the components, but we are going to look at the major points structure wise. Here we have skills, what you need. Obviously, that's a comprehensive topic and we will discuss in our complete sessions basically. I will teach you what are those skills, how you need to cover, what do you mean by each skill, how you can display each skill in your exam just to make sure that you get the maximum marks. Here you can see level D, level C, level B, and level A. These are 4 levels. These are 4 knowledge levels defined by ICAEW. I humbly request to all of you to please look at these levels before starting your preparation because these levels will give you idea. These levels will give you idea about what, how much time you should spend. How much time you should spend on a particular topic or topics basically. How much time you should spend. Talking about, let's say, first of all, we have level D basically. Starting with level D talks about awareness. Awareness of scope of this standard basically. It means you must be having just very little idea like what is the scope of a particular standard, whatever the name is, what is the scope? That is basically the level D. For example, it could be any basic standard, any basic point. So that would be considered at level D. Coming forward, level C, that is the next level. In level C, you need a basic knowledge. You need a basic knowledge, basic understanding about your topic. Either it is a reporting topic or belongs with your finance or your strategy or any other area. So level C at little bit upgraded of your level D. Level B, a comprehensive knowledge, a working knowledge with a broader understanding, basically. That is your level B. So you would be assumed like you have a good experience of, you have a good knowledge. Good experience mean good knowledge, good skills, basically. And level A means thorough knowledge, comprehensive knowledge with a solid understanding of your subject matter. That is your level A, basically. So these are four levels. It means if any topic is at level D, so you should not spend too much amount of time on its studying. But when we talk about level C, so you should spend little bit amount of time on level C. But when we will talk about level A and B, so you should spend significant amount of time on their understanding, concepts, practical application, and their knowledge as well. So these are four levels. Once you have the idea about these level, then go to your syllabus, look at which topics are at level D, C, B, and A, and then accordingly start your preparation, because this will allow you to plan your time accordingly. So this is basically about the awareness section. This is basically about the levels of ICAEW, which has done excellent work. So we can have an idea how we should go with our preparation. Assurance and audit. I will not be spending much time on assurance and audit. Why? The reason is that this has been discussed, assurance and audit, reporting side. These have been discussed, ethics have been discussed in our corporate reporting orientation. So that's why I would not be spending time on them. For audit and reporting, I would request you to please look at the discussion, our session for corporate reporting. At this moment, we will be focusing on just business and finance section only. If I talk about business and finance, basically, business and finance. So these are two different sections, and these two sections are a major portion. These two sections are major portion of our SBM exam, basically. Major portions of our SBM exam. Starting with the topic, and then we have level, certificate and professional level, and then lastly, we have advanced level as well. On my left hand side, we have a list of different topics, starting with strategic analysis, and then in the middle of this page, we have different levels, different subjects, and then at my right hand side, we have advanced level. So that is our focus for today's discussion. Starting with strategic analysis. In strategic analysis, what we are going to do, in fact, what we should cover, starting with industry and market analysis tool, how we can analyze our industry, how we can analyze, assess our dynamic environment. So there are different tools which are available. We have PESTEL, we have Porter 5 Forces, Product Life Cycle, Boston Consulting Group, BCG, prices and markets, and then competitor analysis as well. So these are few topics that we should cover to analyze our industry and market analysis. Let's say if there is a question about we have to perform an analysis about our industry or market, so we can apply some of these tools or any of them, considering the data, what is available for us basically. You have to look at the data, read out scenario, assess the situation, and then apply your relevant model basically. And all of these models, all of these points are at A level. So when something has been carried forward, when we have this sign, that it means when we have this sign, then what does that mean? It means this has been carried from your previous element, from your previous symbol. And we can see that all of them, we have A. So it means all of these topics are at broader level, level A. Here you required solid understanding, comprehensive knowledge of these topics, because these topics could be tested at a complex level. Next, if we have to analyze the position, or if we have to deploy our other analysis tool, then again, we have a lot of options, starting with resource audit, resource-based strategy, value chain analysis, SWOT analysis, gap analysis, marketing analysis, competitive advantage, benchmarking, directional policy metrics, business process analysis, strategic risk analysis, and then lastly, we have balance scorecard basically. And again, all of these topics have been carried forward at level A, except this point, which is B, and here we have directional policy metrics. So only this topic is at level B. Rest of the topics are at level A. So again, as I stated earlier, you need comprehensive knowledge, solid understanding of all of these areas basically. First, we talk about the strategic analysis. Once we have performed our analysis, then definitely we would be having some choices. We have formulated some options, some choices. So what we need to do? We need to analyze our choices. What are our choices? Once we have reviewed our choices, once we have selected some of those choices, so what would be the next step? So next step would be the implementation. But let's start with the strategic choices. In strategic choices, we have strategy formulation, evaluation, and choice. How you should formulate our strategy. What are the factors that you should consider before formulating a strategy? How your strategy will look like, what you should incorporate in your strategy. Then we have business risk management, basically, BRM. That is BRM. That is business risk management. As we know that our businesses operate in a dynamic environment. So there are a lot of forces, both internal as well as external forces, which put significant amount of pressure. So what are those forces? What is business risk basically? And how we can manage our business? How we can protect our business from those risks? What could be the safeguards? What could be the framework? What could be the strategy? Then we have financial analysis and data analysis. Basically, obviously, financial analysis and data analysis means making numbers to talk. So numbers to talk. Making numbers to talk, that is basically our financial analysis. And then we have stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder means different types of stakeholders would be there. Obviously, as a group, what we need to do, we need to consider all of our stakeholders, their stakes, and then we have to pursue a reasonable strategy, a good strategy that will incorporate your major key stakeholders and try to incorporate your other stakeholders as well. Then we have objectives and preference of different stakeholders. And all of these topics are at A level. So you need comprehensive knowledge and so on. Once we are done with our choices, now it's time to go for the implementation. That is basically the strategic implementation. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to formulate our business plan before pursuing any strategy, starting a new business, going for expansion, or any major change. What we need a plan. So we must proceed with our plan, look at the plan, what are the assumptions of those plan, and how we can make sure that this plan is successful. So first of all, we will be talking about business plan. What is business plan? What you should incorporate, what you should include in your business plans, basically. What are the key factors that you should incorporate in your business plans, basically? Financial plan, non-financial areas, assumptions, key takeaways. So, multiple aspects you are going to include in your business plans. Then organization structure. What is the structure of an organization? How this structure could look like, basically? Horizontal structure, what type of structure? As we know that we have different types of structure. Then we have information management, obviously talking about the information side, different perspectives of information, what type of information, how we can manage, how we have to communicate our information to top level. Then talking about the change management and project management as well, basically. Change management means if we want to make some major changes, so what we should do, what steps should we take? And then project management, what is project, how we can manage a project, who could be a good project manager, why projects fail, basically. So all of these components are part of project management. So what we have done so far, we have talked about three major areas, starting with strategic analysis, first of all, then strategic choices was at the second, and then strategic implementation was the third point. Now let's talk about another important area, that is business management. How we can manage our business, how we could be a good business management. So for this, first of all, we have performance management, then strategic marketing and brand management, how we can make ourselves a brand, how our product services could be a brand, basically. There are a lot of brands, as we know, international brands, local brands. So how you can be a brand, because people trust over brands, basically. Then we will talk about the corporate governance. What is corporate governance? As we know, corporate governance are basically set of rules and regulation that govern the structure. That is basically the corporate governance. Then talking about the information strategy, and then HRM, human resource management, basically. What are the factors? What are the considerations for a good HR manager? What should be your job description? How it should look like? How we have to analyze, how we have to assess the performance of candidate, how we can perform appraisal of different employees, basically. So there are a lot of consideration that you should consider as a part of good HR leader, basically. Second area is basically about cost analysis for decision making. So first of all, we will be talking about cost. These areas are basically the basics. These areas are basically the basics. These areas have been covered. We have discussed already in our earlier studies, like our starting accountancy and exams. But you should not be worried, as we have also developed our session for these areas as well. Either you remember them or you are unable to recall them, you should not be worried, as we have developed comprehensive sessions for these areas too. Starting with cost classification, how you can classify your cost. It could be direct cost, indirect cost, fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost, step cost, what kind of costs you are talking about. Then we have costing systems. We have direct costing system, we have absorption costing, we have marginal costing. These were traditional costing system. But with the evolution, with needs, we have developed also ABC costing system, that is activity-based costing system, which uses drivers instead of using the material, or labor as a part of your business. So ABC is basically a modern form of costing. Then we talk about break-even analysis. What is break-even analysis? Break-even means no profit, no loss. Break-even means no profit, no loss. So break-even point would be a point at which any business would not be having any profit or any loss, basically. So that is called as break-even. And this break-even could be calculated either in numbers, like how many units you should produce just to make sure that there is no profit or no loss. Second, break-even is also calculated in figures like how much revenue you should generate just to make sure that business has no profit or no loss. So that is basically break-even analysis. Break-even analysis is for single product, and it could also be done for multi products as well, basically. And then we will be closing this section with budgeting and performance management. Basically, what is budgeting, why there is a need of budget, what kind of budgets do we have to talk about, zero-based budgeting, incremental budgeting, rolling budget, or what kind of budget, basically. And then performance management, performance assessment, talking about variance. What is variance? Why there is a variance? What is standard costing? What kind of variances do we have to study? Variances related to material, labor, overheads, and so on. So this was basically about your costing section. Now, if I talk about pricing, then in pricing, we have two areas, two key considerations. First of all, the major significant consideration is pricing decisions, basically. You have to take decisions about the price, how you should set the price, basically, how you should set the price. That is basically a key consideration, how you can set a price. And then another area is transfer pricing. What is transfer pricing, basically? Why we use transfer pricing? Are there some implications of transfer pricing or not? Then decision-making techniques. In decision-making, we use different areas. We talk about expected values, EV, relevant cash flows, and sensitivity analysis, basically. So relevant cash flows, sensitivity analysis, expected values, these are same topics as we have in our finance as well. What is relevant cost? How relevant cost is different from other costs like sunk costs and so on. What is sensitivity analysis? How you can perform it? What is the objective of performing this sensitivity analysis? So these are some topics belonging with your costing perspective, with your costing analysis for decision making, and not more than that. Because when we use the word costing, then some people think like you have to revise your complete syllabus. Either you belong with ACCA, like a complete revision of your F5 or P5. No, you just need to go through these topics, basically. And we have sessions for all of these topics as well. Now talking about another major area, that is basically business and shareholder value. So from here, we are talking about the finance section. Starting with very first area, that is basically about valuation techniques. So these techniques, these areas, these topics talk about business valuation. Business valuation is one of the key considerations for your SBM exam, and it has been divided into two areas. First of all, we have valuation techniques, and second, we talk about the shareholders' value. If I talk about valuation techniques, then we have different types of technique. Here we use the income-based techniques and asset-based techniques, basically. In income-based technique, we deploy dividend yield model, PE model, or discounted cash flows, or DCF basically. Or these are also called as DCF, discounted cash flows. Other than, we also have asset-based model and other options approach. Different approaches are also available. So these are few approaches, few techniques for our valuation of a particular business. If I talk about shareholders value, then we have VBM, value based management, value drivers. What are value drivers which can drive value for your business? These are called as value drivers. Then we should also perform. In fact, we must be able to perform our SVA. SVA means shareholder value analysis basically. What adds value to a shareholder? Wealth basically. Then we talk about short-term and long-term growth rates and terminal values, economic profit basically. What is cash flow return on investment? What is total return for shareholders? And what about MVA, market value added basically? So these are some topics, some points for our valuation techniques basically. Another topic moving forward, what we have, that is basically investment appraisal and risk analysis. First of all, we will be talking about the project appraisal. Let's say we have some funds and we want to invest in a particular opportunity. So before investing our funds, as a good person, as a good business leader, what we need appraisal of that project. How we can go for that? We have to deploy different techniques. Starting with NPV, that is net present value. This technique will give you the idea how much wealth would be added into your business. If you undertake this opportunity, this project, so how much wealth would be added to the shareholders' wealth? Second, we have IRR, that is internal rate of return. This technique will give you idea how much return you can expect from a particular project basically. That is IRR, internal rate of return. Then MIRR, that is basically an advanced technique. Probably you might not have studied this section of MIRR. MIRR stands for modified internal rate of return. That is an advanced technique of IRR. Then we talk about payback period. What is payback period? Here we also talk about discounted payback period basically. Again, discounted payback period is a modified form of payback period because simple payback period does not consider your time value of money. But discounted payback period, it involves, it assumes, it incorporates your time value of money. That's why it is a discounted payback period. Then we talk about relevant cash flows. We also talk about taxation, inflation, replacement analysis. If we have to replace any asset or something, then how we can replace. Then we talk about capital rationing. What is capital rationing basically? How we can go for, how we can ensure what type of capital rationing do we have. Either it is a soft capital rationing or it's a hard capital rationing. Then we talk about APV, that is adjusted present value. Normally we talk about NPV, net present value. But what is APV? That is adjusted present value. That is an advanced technique of your NPV. So that's why we call it as a APV. And you see, there are some new topics in SBM, what you have studied in your earlier studies. So there are some new topics in your SBM exam. So we should be careful. We should study all of our topics. Either they belong with our basic or with our advanced level. Then continuing the same thing of investment appraisal, we also talk about assessment of risk basically, how we can assess the risk. different project appraisal, different risk areas. We can go for expected value, EVP, EV, expected value is EV. Scenario planning, gap analysis, continuous versus event risk, basically. So these are some areas, some sections about risk assessment. Now talking about the second section, and second section is basically about the financial analysis, basically. In financial analysis, first of all, we talk about cost of capital. What would be the cost of capital? And this cost of capital, it involves different areas, starting with cost of equity, cost of debt, cost of preference shares, cost of bank loans, WACC, weighted average cost of capital, one of the most renowned technique for calculating. Then we talk about effective interest rates, splitting convertibles into equity and debt. What would be the value for equity element and debt element, and what are equity instruments, basically. So these are some areas, some points for your cost of capital. Again, these are basics, but we have also have sessions for basics as well as for complex topics, advanced topics, and we also go for live sessions, recorded session, as well as for interactive sessions as well. So interactive sessions give you the opportunity to ask questions if you have any problem, to go for live practice, assignments, class with assignments, and at the same time reviewed by your tutor as well. Then we talk about portfolio theory and CAPM. CAPM is basically capital asset pricing model. Different type of theories, portfolio theory, CAPM, asset pricing model. What is the relationship between CAPM and cost of capital, and what is international cost of capital? Because normally we talk about the cost of capital, but if we have to take some international project, definitely we should talk about international cost of capital, basically. Then we also have some topics starting with the other areas of financing, like we have bonds and fixed interest securities, bond pricing, years to maturity, or we also call it YGM, basically. Duration and price volatility, convexity, term structure of interest rates, corporate borrowing, and default risk, basically. Then we have data analytics. In data analytics, we have spreadsheet function, sensitivity analysis, scenario analysis, data distributions, data biasness, and data visualization. All of these topics are at A level except topic of data visualization, which is at point B. Then talking about some quantitative methods, basically. In quantitative methods, we talk about the standard deviation, efficient of variation, probabilities, correlation, z-score, and then confidence intervals as well, basically. So these are some quantitative methods. Here, different topics are at different level. All of these topics are at B level, except this topic of probability, which is at A level. So you should be in a position to calculate, to apply these methods, as well as the implication, the results of these methods as well, basically. Then we talk about another major area, that is basically about sources of finance and financing arrangements, basically. In sourcing of finance, we have different types of loans, different types of financing. As we know, short-term financing, medium-term financing, and long-term financing as well. Then we have another term, that is basically the green finance. As we know that it's a time of sustainability, to apply new areas, to make sure that your environment is safe, your environment is protected. So what we need to go for green finance. What is green finance? How this green finance is different from rest of your finances. Then we talk about loan agreement condition. What is loan? What are different conditions of loan? Warranties, covenants, guarantees. Difference between warranty and guarantee. There is a huge difference between warranty and guarantee. How you can raise your capital. What about gearing and capital structure? What about loan agreements, covenants basically? Dividend policy, financing reconstructions basically, like group reconstructions, spin-off, purchasing on shares, and so on. Treasury and working capital, small and medium company financing, and then having an overview about history of finance basically. So these are topics belonging with your sources of finance. Then talking about financial engineering. What is financial engineering? It involves different topics, starting with futures, option, swaps. So these are financial instruments basically. Your financial instruments, your options, interest rate futures, interest rate options, FRA, forward rate agreements, interest rate swaps, commodity derivatives, hedging. Foreign exchange, currency forward contracts, currency money market cover, currency options, currency swaps, managing currency risk, and what are the determinants of foreign exchange rates basically. Talking about option value, in option value we have call option, put option, Black's call model, binomial model, and then real options as well. But all of these topics are at B level and not at A level. Then we talk about next topic, and the next topic is basically sustainability in business and finance basically. What is sustainability? Sustainability is very, very important. What is sustainability? What are different types of sustainability? Environmental, social, economic. What is ESG? How ESG plays a very important role. Corporate responsibility, green finance, then measurement and metrics in sustainability. How you can measure, how you can assess the sustainability. Then we talk about reporting on sustainability. Either it is a mandatory reporting or non-mandatory reporting. In some countries, sustainability reporting is becoming mandatory, while in other countries, it is a non-mandatory requirement. But obviously, efforts are needed to make sure that sustainability is a mandatory requirement because we have to take care of our environment as well. Then we talk about risk management and sustainability, relationship between risk management and sustainability, regulation of sustainability, sustainability and ethics basically. And again, these topics are A level, except this topic, regulation of sustainability, which is at B level. So these are syllabus areas of our SBM. I just talked about two areas. First of all, business section. Second was belonging to your finance section, basically. Rest of the areas of corporate reporting, assurance, and ethics, these have been covered in our corporate reporting discussion. So if you need any information, then please look at the recordings, look at the links of our corporate reporting as well. Thank you.